The morning sun cast long shadows across the dirt mounds that surrounded New Denver colony. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the colonists pile more earth onto what looked like simple defensive walls. To anyone watching, from above it appeared to be the work of desperate people trying to build protection with nothing but shovels and hope. Jake knew better. Every shovel of dirt had a purpose. Every wooden post was placed exactly where it needed to be. The colonists had been working on these defenses for 8 months, but they had been planning them for much longer. Captain Morrison, the alien ship, is approaching, called Amy Rodriguez from her communication post near the main settlement. Her voice carried across the open ground where 200 humans continued their work, pretending not to notice the dark shape growing larger in the sky. Jake nodded and walked toward the center of the colony. The Zelrani diplomatic vessel looked like a smooth black stone as it descended from the clouds. Its surface gleamed in the sunlight, and Jake could see no visible engines or weapons. The aliens had technology that made their ships appear almost magical to human eyes. The ship touched down in the flat area outside the colony walls. A ramp extended from its belly, and 3 figures walked down. Jake had met them before during their previous visits. Ambassador Vexistar was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His military advisor, Commander Krilox, was shorter but broader, with dark green scales covering his body. Both aliens moved with the confidence of beings who knew they were superior to everything around them. The third figure was new. This Zelrani had silver skin and moved differently from the others. Jake guessed this was some kind of technical expert, brought to examine human defenses. "Greetings, Captain Morrison," said Ambassador Vextar in perfect English. The aliens had learned human languages easily, which only added to their sense of superiority. "We see you have been busy since our last visit." Jake smiled and walked closer to the alien delegation. "Welcome back, Ambassador. Yes, we have been working hard to improve our security. Would you like to see what we have built?" Commander Krilox made a sound that Jake had learned was alien laughter. "Security? Captain, we can see your entire settlement from orbit. You have built walls of dirt and planted wooden sticks in the ground. This is what you call security?" "We work with what we have," Jake replied. He kept his voice calm and friendly. "We are not as advanced as your people, but we try our best." The silver-skinned alien stepped forward and began examining the earthworks more closely. It walked along the dirt walls, occasionally stopping to touch the wooden posts or peer into the trenches the humans had dug. Jake watched carefully, noting how the alien's attention focused on certain areas. Lisa Carter approached the group, her boots caked with mud from the construction work. She was the colony's chief engineer, but the aliens saw her as just another human worker. Lisa had been the main architect of their defensive plans, though she was careful never to let the aliens know this. "Ambassador, would you like me to explain our defensive strategy?" Lisa asked politely. Vextar's forearms moved in what Jake recognized as a dismissive gesture. "There is no need, human. We can see that you have built simple barriers to keep out local wildlife. Very practical for primitive beings." The silver-skinned alien finished its examination and returned to the group. It spoke to the others in their own language, a series of clicks and whistles that sounded like music. Jake understood some basic Zelrani words, enough to catch the meaning of harmless and beneath concern. "My technical advisor confirms what we already knew," said Commander Krilox. "Your defenses are adequate for protecting against local animals, but they would not slow down a serious military force for even a few minutes." Dr. Ben Watson joined the group, carrying a tablet with geological surveys of the area. He was the colony's xenobiologist, and he had spent considerable time studying Zelrani behavior during their previous visits. "Ambassador, we appreciate your continued interest in our colony," Ben said. "We hope that our peoples can continue to coexist peacefully on this world." "Of course," replied Vextar. "Your people are welcome to remain here as long as you cause no trouble. We have no interest in this remote planet beyond ensuring that no hostile forces use it as a base." Jake noticed the careful wording. The aliens were telling them that New Denver existed only because the Zelrani allowed it to exist. The message was clear. Humans were tolerated guests, not equals. The alien delegation walked through the colony, examining the buildings and equipment. They showed polite interest in the human farming techniques and asked questions about the colonists' daily routines. To Jake, it felt more like scientists studying interesting animals than diplomats meeting with fellow intelligent beings. "Your people have adapted well to this environment," observed the silver-skinned alien speaking for the first time in English. Its voice was higher-pitched than the others. "Your technology is simple, but effective for your needs. We have learned to make the most of what we have," Lisa replied. She gestured toward the workshops where colonists were building furniture and tools. "Human ingenuity has always been about solving problems with whatever materials are available." The alien nodded approvingly. "Yes, we have observed this trait in your species. You are quite resourceful for such a young civilization." As the tour continued, Jake noticed that the aliens paid special attention to anything that looked like communications equipment or power generation. They examined the solar panels that provided electricity to the colony and asked detailed questions about the fusion reactor that powered their more energy-intensive operations. The aliens seemed satisfied that human technology posed no threat to their interests. Their questions were thorough but not concerned, like teachers making sure students were not playing with dangerous equipment. After 2 hours, the alien delegation prepared to leave. Ambassador Vextar gathered his companions near their ship for final observations. "Captain Morrison, your colony continues to develop within acceptable parameters," the ambassador announced. "We will include a favorable report in our next communication to the Zelrani Council." "Thank you, Ambassador," Jake replied. "We are grateful for your continued support." As the alien ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky, Jake felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. The Zelrani had seen exactly what they expected to see: a primitive human settlement with crude defenses and simple technology. They had no idea what they had really been looking at. Lisa Carter walked up beside Jake as they watched the ship vanish into the distance. "Do you think they suspected anything?" she asked quietly. Jake shook his head. "They saw exactly what we wanted them to see: dirt walls, wooden stakes, and primitive humans trying to build something that might stop wild animals." "Good," Lisa said, "because in 6 months, when they come back with their invasion fleet, they are going to get the surprise of their lives." Jake smiled grimly as he looked back at the earthworks that surrounded their colony. To alien eyes, they looked like the desperate efforts of primitive beings. But Jake knew the truth. Every mound of dirt hid sophisticated equipment. Every wooden post was positioned to provide perfect firing angles. Every trench was designed to channel attacking forces into carefully prepared kill zones. The Zelrani thought they had seen human desperation. They had actually witnessed human preparation. 6 months after the diplomatic visit, the sky above New Denver began to darken with alien ships. Jake Morrison stood in the hidden command bunker beneath the colony, watching the tactical displays that showed 12 Zelrani warships taking positions in orbit around the planet. The ships were massive, each one larger than the entire human colony. Their hulls gleamed with the same metallic finish as the diplomatic vessel, but these were clearly built for war. Energy readings showed powerful weapon systems and defensive shields that could probably withstand anything humans had ever built. At least, that was what the Zelrani believed. "Fleet Commander Zarthun is broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Amy Rodriguez from her communication station. The underground command center hummed with quiet activity as colonists took their positions at monitoring stations throughout the bunker. Jake nodded toward Amy. "Let's hear what he has to say." The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of a Zelrani commander. Zarthun was larger than the aliens Jake had met before, with dark blue skin marked by silver scars that indicated military service. His expression showed the calm confidence of someone who had conquered many worlds. "Humans of New Denver Colony," the alien commander began, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "I am Fleet Commander Zarthun of the Zelrani Imperial Navy. Your planet has been selected for colonization by the Zelrani Empire. Jake listened carefully as the alien continued his demands. The speech was exactly what they had expected. Surrender immediately, and the humans would be relocated to designated areas where they could serve the new Zelrani colonists. Resist, and the entire settlement would be destroyed from orbit. You have 1 hour to consider your response, Zarthun concluded. Choose wisely. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships, and your simple fortifications will not protect you from orbital bombardment. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Jake looked around at the faces of his people. 200 colonists who had spent 8 months preparing for this moment. Lisa, what's the status of our defensive systems? Jake asked. Lisa Carter checked her engineering displays, each one showing green lights across multiple hidden installations. All weapons platforms are online and ready. Power systems are functioning at full capacity. The geothermal taps are providing more energy than we need. Tony, how about our special surprises? Tony Mitchell grinned from his demolition station. Every charge is in place and ready to detonate on your command, Captain. The aliens won't know what hit them. Jake turned to Sue Davis, who was coordinating with the observation posts scattered around the valley. Sue, what are our eyes telling us about alien movement? 12 dropships are launching from the main fleet, Sue reported. They're coming, in fast and low, probably expecting to overwhelm us with a show of force. Each ship appears to be carrying about 50 troops. Dr. Ben Watson looked up from his analysis station. Based on their approach pattern, I'd say they're following standard Zelrani invasion procedures. They expect us to surrender as soon as we see their superior numbers and technology. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens were doing exactly what every piece of intelligence suggested they would do. Their military doctrine was based on technological superiority and overwhelming force. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technology while appearing to be primitive. Amy, open a channel to the lead dropship, Jake ordered. The communication screen activated, showing the interior of a Zelrani military transport. Commander Krilox appeared on the display, wearing battle armor that made him look even more intimidating than during his diplomatic visit. Captain Morrison, the alien commander said with obvious satisfaction, I see you have chosen to respond quickly. Are you ready to surrender your colony? Jake nodded respectfully. Commander Krilox, we remember you from your previous visit. We are prepared to discuss terms. There are no terms to discuss, Krilox replied harshly. You will order all humans to gather in the central area of your settlement. Our troops will secure the area and prepare for the arrival of Zelrani colonists. We understand, Jake said, making his voice sound defeated. We cannot fight your superior technology. We will comply with your demands. The alien commander looked pleased with this easy victory. Excellent. You humans are more intelligent than some species we have encountered. Your cooperation will be noted in our reports. Jake maintained his submissive expression while watching the tactical displays that showed the approaching dropships. The alien vessels were moving in a tight formation, their energy shields glowing as they prepared for landing. All colonists are moving to the gathering area as requested, Jake reported, though he knew that most of the humans were actually taking positions in hidden bunkers and weapon emplacements. Very good, Krilox responded. We will be landing in 5 minutes. Ensure that all humans remain in the designated area until our troops can process them. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to address his team. Everyone knows their assignments. Remember, we get one chance to make this work. If we fail, there won't be a second opportunity. Lisa Carter made final adjustments to the weapon systems. All railguns are powered and targeted. The aliens' shield frequencies match exactly what we recorded during their previous visits. Tony Mitchell checked his explosive systems one more time. Mining charges are ready to activate. The aliens won't be expecting attacks from below ground. Sue Davis coordinated with the hidden observation teams. All posts report ready. The aliens are following predicted approach routes perfectly. On the main tactical display, Jake watched the 12 dropships descend toward the valley that contained New Denver Colony. The alien vessels moved with the confidence of predators, approaching helpless prey. The lead ship containing Commander Kryllox approached the flat area where the alien diplomatic vessel had landed months earlier. The other ships spread out in a wide circle around the colony, positioning themselves to prevent any human escape attempts. 30 seconds to landing, reported Sue Davis. Jake took a deep breath and activated the colony-wide communication system. Throughout the hidden bunkers and weapon emplacements, 200 colonists heard his voice. "This is it, people. 8 months of preparation come down to the next few minutes. Remember what we're fighting for. Not just our colony, but proof that humans won't be pushed around by anyone who thinks we're weak." The first Zelrani dropship touched down outside the colony walls. Its landing ramp extended, and armored alien soldiers began marching out in perfect formation. Commander Kryllox emerged from the ship, his forearms gesturing commands to his troops. The aliens moved with the practiced efficiency of veterans who had conquered dozens of worlds. "All alien troops are deployed," Sue reported quietly. "They're spreading out exactly as our simulations predicted." Jake watched the tactical display as more dropships landed and discharged their troops. 600 Zelrani soldiers were now on the ground, surrounding the human colony with overwhelming force. The aliens had no idea they were walking into the most elaborate trap in human military history. Commander Kryllox activated his communication system and broadcast to the human settlement. "Captain Morrison, order your people to come out of their buildings. Our soldiers will begin processing procedures immediately." Jake smiled as he reached for the activation controls that would reveal exactly what human ingenuity could accomplish when properly motivated. "Commander," Jake replied calmly, "I'm afraid there's been a change of plans." Commander Kryllox stared at his communication display in confusion. "What do you mean, a change of plans? You agreed to surrender your colony." Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers with a tone that no longer sounded defeated. "I said, we were prepared to discuss terms. I never agreed to surrender." Before the alien commander could respond, Jake activated the first phase of New Denver's defensive systems. Across the valley, hidden panels slid away from what the Zelrani had assumed were simple dirt mounds. The sound of machinery filled the air as camouflaged weapon emplacements revealed themselves. What had looked like primitive earthworks suddenly bristled with the barrels of sophisticated railguns, each one aimed at a different group of alien soldiers. "Impossible," whispered Commander Kryllox as he watched human technology emerge from the ground around his troops. "Our sensors showed no advanced weapons." "Your sensors showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Jake replied through the communication system. "Lisa, initiate firing sequence." In the underground command bunker, Lisa Carter activated the targeting systems that had been carefully calibrated over months of preparation. Every railgun had been programmed with precise firing coordinates, designed to maximize damage while avoiding friendly positions. "All weapons locked on target," Lisa reported. "Ready to fire on your command." Jake looked at the tactical display showing 600 alien soldiers spread across the valley floor. Each group of enemies was perfectly positioned in the killing zones that had been planned around the fake earthworks. "Fire." The railgun spoke with thunderous voices that echoed across the valley. Tungsten projectiles accelerated to hypersonic velocities, carrying kinetic energy that no personal armor could withstand. The projectiles had been precisely tuned to disrupt Zelrani energy shields, using frequency data gathered during the aliens' diplomatic visits. The effect was devastating. Alien soldiers who had been advancing confidently toward the human settlement suddenly found themselves under attack from weapons that penetrated their defensive systems like they were made of paper. Commander Kryllox watched in horror as his troops fell under the precise fire from hidden human positions. "How is this possible? Your technology cannot penetrate our shields." "You're right," Jake replied calmly. "Our original technology couldn't penetrate your shields, so we built better technology." The second phase of the attack began as Tony Mitchell activated the underground mining charges. The explosives had been carefully positioned beneath the areas where alien dropships would most likely land, based on standard Zelrani military procedures. The ground erupted under 3 of the alien transport vessels as precisely placed charges detonated simultaneously. The ships, caught completely off guard, were thrown into the air by the explosions. Their energy shields, designed to stop incoming projectiles, provided no protection against attacks from below. All ground units, report status, Commander Krilox demanded over his military communication system. The responses that came back painted a picture of disaster. Half his troops were already down, caught in carefully planned crossfire from weapons they hadn't known existed. In orbit above the planet, Fleet Commander Zarthun watched the battle unfold through satellite feeds. "How are humans destroying our forces?" he demanded of his technical officers. "Their weapons should be primitive projectile throwers." "Sir, the projectiles are moving at velocities consistent with advanced railgun technology," replied his chief. Analyst. "The humans appear to have developed weapons specifically designed to counter our defensive systems." Zarthun studied the tactical displays showing the destruction of his ground forces. "That's impossible. Our intelligence reports indicated that human technology was centuries behind our own." Back on the planet's surface, the third phase of the human attack began. Sue Davis coordinated with hidden positions around the valley as camouflaged missile launchers revealed themselves. The missiles weren't the crude rockets the aliens might have expected. They were guided projectiles using navigation systems reverse-engineered from captured Zelrani technology. Launching guided missiles, Sue reported as streams of projectiles rose from concealed positions around the colony. Each missile had been programmed with the specific energy signatures of Zelrani dropships, allowing them to home in on their targets with deadly accuracy. The remaining alien transport vessels, already damaged by ground explosions and railgun fire, found themselves under attack from precision-guided weapons that adjusted their flight paths to account for defensive maneuvers. Commander Krilox watched his command ship take multiple hits from missiles that seemed to anticipate his pilots' evasive actions. "Retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to reassess the human capabilities." But Jake Morrison wasn't finished demonstrating what human ingenuity could accomplish. As the surviving alien forces attempted to withdraw, the fourth phase of the defense plan activated. Carol Johnson, working from a hidden computer station, activated the electronic warfare systems that had been built into every fake wooden post around the colony. The posts, which had looked like primitive fortifications, were actually sophisticated antenna arrays designed to jam Zelrani communication and navigation systems. "Electronic countermeasures active," Carol reported as alien dropships began experiencing navigation failures. "Their communication network is being disrupted by broad-spectrum interference." The aliens found themselves cut off from orbital support and unable to coordinate their retreat effectively. Individual units scattered across the valley floor, seeking cover from human weapons that seemed to be everywhere at once. Dr. Ben Watson monitored the psychological impact of the battle from his analysis station. "Alien forces are showing signs of panic. They're not responding according to their standard military procedures." This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Zelrani military doctrine was based on technological superiority and overwhelming force. When faced with an enemy that could match their technology while appearing primitive, their training provided no guidance. "Tony, activate the final surprise," Jake ordered. Tony Mitchell triggered the last set of explosive charges, these ones positioned to create artificial landslides that would block the aliens' retreat routes. Massive boulders tumbled down the valley walls, trapping the surviving Zelrani forces in the killing zone around New Denver Colony. Commander Krilox found himself commanding fewer than 200 troops, trapped in a valley surrounded by human weapons that his intelligence reports had assured him didn't exist. "Fleet Commander Zarthun," he called desperately over his communication system, "request immediate orbital bombardment of the entire valley. The human defenses are far more sophisticated than our reports indicated." In orbit, Zarthun stared at the tactical displays showing the destruction of his ground forces. An entire invasion force equipped with the most advanced technology in the Zelrani arsenal had been defeated by humans using what appeared to be their own technology turned against them. "Prepare for orbital bombardment," Zarthun ordered. "If these humans want to play with advanced weapons, we'll show them what real firepower looks like." Jake Morrison watched the orbital ships begin charging their main weapons and smiled grimly. The aliens were doing exactly what his team had predicted they would do when their ground assault failed. "Lisa, are you ready for Phase 2 of our defense plan?" Jake asked. Lisa Carter checked her displays and nodded. The big surprise is ready to activate. The aliens won't know what hit them. Jake opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Fleet Commander Zarthun, I strongly recommend against orbital bombardment. You are in no position to make recommendations, human, Zarthun replied angrily. Your primitive planet will burn for this insult to the Zelrani Empire. Actually, Jake said calmly, our primitive planet has one more surprise for you. Fleet Commander Zarthun cut off communication with the humans and turned to his weapons officer. Begin charging all plasma cannons. I want enough firepower to glass the entire valley where these primitive creatures think they can challenge the Zelrani Empire. The 12 warships in orbit began drawing power to their main weapon systems. Energy readings spiked as massive capacitors filled with the destructive force needed to burn away everything within a 50-kilometer radius of New Denver colony. Charging sequence will complete in 5 minutes, reported the weapons officer. All ships report ready to commence bombardment on your command, sir. Zarthun watched the tactical displays showing the remains of his ground forces trapped in the valley below. 600 elite troops reduced to fewer than 200 survivors, all because human intelligence reports had been completely wrong. How? Did our analysts fail so completely? He demanded of his intelligence officer. You assured me that human technology was centuries behind our own. Sir, all observational data supported that conclusion. The intelligence officer replied nervously. The humans appeared to have only primitive weapons and simple fortifications. There was no indication they possessed advanced military technology. Yet, they destroyed our invasion force with weapons that specifically counter our defensive systems. Zarthun growled. Either our intelligence gathering is completely incompetent, or these humans are far more dangerous than any species we have encountered. Deep beneath New Denver colony, Jake Morrison monitored the energy buildup in the alien ships through sensors that had been hidden throughout the valley for months. Lisa Carter worked at her engineering station, making final preparations for the most ambitious part of their defensive plan. Orbital weapons will be ready to fire in 4 minutes, Lisa reported. Are you sure this is going to work? Jake nodded, though he felt the weight of responsibility for every life in the colony. We've run the calculations 100 times. The theory is sound, and we've tested every component individually. It has to work. The centerpiece of New Denver's defenses wasn't the railguns or guided missiles that had destroyed the alien ground forces. Those weapons were impressive, but they were just the opening act for something far more ambitious. For 8 months, the colonists had been constructing what appeared to be simple geothermal energy collectors. The aliens had seen the installation during their diplomatic visits and assumed it was a primitive power generation system. They had no idea they were looking at the most powerful electromagnetic pulse generator ever built by human hands. Mike, what's the status of the power grid? Jake asked. Mike Torres checked his displays from the colony's main power station. All geothermal taps are operating at maximum output. We're drawing enough energy to power a city 10 times the size of New Denver. The geothermal system wasn't just collecting energy from the planet's core. It was storing that energy in a network of capacitors hidden throughout the valley. The same earthworks that concealed railguns and missile launchers also hid the components of a massive electromagnetic pulse system. Amy, are you still monitoring alien communications? Jake asked. Amy Rodriguez nodded from her communication station. The aliens are using standard military frequencies and encryption. Their security protocols assume that no primitive species could intercept or decode their transmissions. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens' assumption of technological superiority had been their weakness throughout this entire encounter. They had never considered that humans might be capable of matching or exceeding their technology. 3 minutes to orbital bombardment, Lisa announced. All EMP systems are ready for activation. The electromagnetic pulse generator was designed on principles that human scientists had understood for decades, but had never had the resources to implement on this scale. The idea was simple. Create an electromagnetic field so powerful that it would disrupt electronic systems over a massive area. The execution was far more complex. The pulse had to be precisely focused to reach ships in orbit without damaging human equipment on the planet's surface. The timing had to be perfect, striking the alien fleet just as their weapons reached full charge. "Sue, confirm that all our equipment is properly shielded," Jake ordered. Sue Davis checked her displays showing the status of every electronic system in the colony. "All human technology is protected by Faraday cages and hardened circuits. We should be immune to the electromagnetic effects." The irony wasn't lost on Jake. The aliens' advanced technology, with its complex computer systems and sophisticated electronics, was far more vulnerable to electromagnetic interference than the simpler human equipment. 2 minutes to bombardment," Lisa reported. "Fleet Commander Zarthun is broadcasting final warnings to the colony." Jake activated the communication system to hear the alien commander's ultimatum. "Humans of New Denver, you have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. After that, your entire settlement will be destroyed by orbital fire." "Fleet Commander," Jake replied calmly, "I told you that our planet had one more surprise for you. Would you like to see what it is?" "Your threats are meaningless," Zarthun responded angrily. "No planetary-based weapon can reach ships in orbit. Your defeat is inevitable." Jake looked around the command bunker at the faces of his people. 200 colonists had worked together for months to build something that had never been attempted before. They were about to find out if human ingenuity could triumph over alien technology. "Lisa, activate the EMP system," Jake ordered. Lisa Carter placed her hand on the activation control. "All systems ready. Firing in 10 seconds." Throughout the valley, hidden capacitors released 8 months of stored geothermal energy into a network of carefully positioned electromagnetic coils. The pulse that erupted from the planet's surface was invisible to human eyes, but devastating to electronic systems. The electromagnetic wave traveled upward through the atmosphere at the speed of light, focused into a tight beam by underground antenna arrays that the aliens had mistaken for primitive mining equipment. In orbit, the Zelrani fleet was caught completely off guard. Their weapon systems, charged to maximum power and ready to fire, suddenly found themselves dealing with electromagnetic interference far beyond anything their designers had ever imagined. "What is happening to our systems?" demanded Fleet Commander Zarthun as his command ship's displays began flickering and failing. "Sir, we're experiencing massive electromagnetic interference," replied his technical officer. "All computer systems are failing simultaneously. Navigation, weapons, life support. Everything is going offline." The EMP pulse struck the Zelrani fleet with the force of a natural electromagnetic storm, but focused and amplified by human engineering. The aliens' sophisticated electronics, never designed to handle such massive interference, began shutting down in cascade failures. "Emergency power to all systems," Zarthun ordered desperately. "Reroute through backup circuits." But the backup systems were failing as fast as the primary ones. The electromagnetic pulse was too powerful and too sustained for any electronic system to resist. One by one, the 12 warships went dark as their power systems failed. "Sir, 3 ships are losing orbital velocity," reported the navigation officer from a manual backup station. "They're beginning to fall toward the planet's surface." Jake Morrison watched the tactical displays as alien ships began falling out of orbit. The EMP system was working exactly as designed, creating electromagnetic interference so powerful that it overwhelmed every electronic system within its range. "Mike, shut down the pulse generator," Jake ordered. "We don't want to damage our own satellites." The electromagnetic field faded as the underground capacitors exhausted their stored energy. In orbit, the surviving Zelrani ships found themselves drifting powerless, their crews struggling to restore basic life support systems. Fleet Commander Zarthun stared at his dead displays and realized that everything he thought he knew about human capabilities had been completely wrong. These weren't primitive beings using simple technology. They were engineers who had built weapons specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of advanced civilizations. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his surviving crew members. 6 ships are still in stable orbit, sir," came the reply from a manual communication station. 3 ships crashed on the planet's surface. The other 3 are trying to restore power before their orbits decay completely. Zarthun realized that his entire invasion fleet had been neutralized by a single weapon fired from the planet's surface. The humans had turned their own technological sophistication against them, using electromagnetic principles that were older than spaceflight itself. Fleet Commander Zarthun floated in the emergency command center of his crippled flagship, watching his crew work frantically to restore basic ship functions. Around him, the other surviving vessels of his once mighty fleet drifted powerless. In orbit, their sophisticated systems reduced to scrap metal by a single electromagnetic pulse from the planet below. "Sir, we have partial communications restored," reported his technical officer through a handheld radio salvaged from emergency supplies. "The humans are broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Zarthun took the radio with one of his 4 hands, dreading what he might hear. The voice that came through the static was the same calm tone that had been mocking his forces throughout this disaster. "Fleet Commander Zarthun, this is Captain Morrison. Are you ready to discuss terms now?" The alien commander felt rage and humiliation burning in his chest. His invasion fleet, the pride of the Zelrani Imperial Navy, had been destroyed by creatures he had considered barely above animals. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to understand something very important," Jake Morrison replied. "You came here expecting to find primitive beings with crude weapons. Instead, you found engineers who had been studying your technology for months and preparing specifically for your arrival." Zarthun looked around at his dead ship and realized the terrible truth. "You knew we were coming. We knew someone like you would eventually come," Jake confirmed. "Species that consider themselves superior always make the same mistake. They underestimate everyone else. We used that weakness against you." In the underground command bunker, Jake Morrison looked at his tactical displays showing the results of their defensive operation. 6 Zelrani warships destroyed or disabled, with the remaining vessels barely functional. The ground invasion force had been completely eliminated, with Commander Krillox among the casualties. "Lisa, what's the status of our surface-to-orbit missile systems?" Jake asked. Lisa Carter checked her engineering displays and smiled. "All launch silos are operational and loaded. We have enough missiles to finish off the remaining ships if necessary." The missiles were the final surprise in New Denver's defensive arsenal. While the aliens had been focused on the railguns and the EMP system, they had completely missed the network of launch silos hidden throughout the valley. Each silo contained guided missiles with warheads designed specifically to penetrate Zelrani ship armor. "Sue, are you tracking the alien ships that are trying to escape?" Jake asked. Sue Davis monitored her sensor displays as 3 of the surviving Zelrani vessels attempted to restore enough power to leave orbit. 2 ships are trying to restart their engines. The 3rd one is sending out distress signals. Jake opened the communication channel to the alien fleet. "Fleet Commander, I'm detecting that some of your ships are trying to leave. I strongly advise against that." "You cannot stop us from departing," Zarthun replied, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Once we report your capabilities to the Zelrani High Command, a much larger fleet will return to destroy your world." "Actually," Jake said calmly, "I don't think you'll be reporting anything to anyone." Carol Johnson activated the targeting systems for the hidden missile silos. On her displays, she could see the electromagnetic signatures of every alien ship still in orbit. The missiles had been programmed with the specific energy patterns of Zelrani vessels, allowing them to track and destroy their targets even in the vacuum of space. "Launching surface-to-orbit missiles," Carol reported as streams of projectiles rose from concealed positions around the colony. Each missile followed a carefully calculated trajectory that would intercept the fleeing alien. Vessel's Fleet Commander Zarthun watched in horror as his sensor operators reported incoming missiles from the planet's surface. How is this possible? No planetary civilization should have surface-to-orbit capability. The first missile struck the Zelrani vessel that was closest to achieving escape velocity. The warhead, designed using principles learned from studying alien armor during their diplomatic visits, punched through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. "Sir, the human missiles are using our own guidance systems against us," reported a surviving technical officer. "They're homing in on our ship signatures with perfect accuracy. The 2nd and 3rd missiles found their targets with devastating precision." The alien ships, already crippled by the electromagnetic pulse, had no defensive capability left to stop the incoming projectiles. Within minutes, only Zarthun's flagship remained in orbit, its engines too damaged to achieve escape, velocity and its weapons completely offline. "Fleet Commander," came Jake Morrison's voice through the radio. "You now have a choice. You can surrender and live, or you can join the rest of your fleet." Zarthun looked around at the wreckage of his command center and realized that his military career was over. More importantly, he was beginning to understand that the Zelrani Empire's assumption of technological superiority might be fatally flawed. "I surrender," he said quietly into the radio. "Excellent," Jake replied. "Prepare to receive a boarding party. We have some things to discuss." An hour later, Zarthun found himself standing in the main hall of New Denver Colony, surrounded by the humans he had come to conquer. The building looked exactly as primitive as he had expected, but now he knew that appearances could be deceiving. Jake Morrison approached the alien commander, followed by Lisa Carter and the other key members of the colony's leadership. "Welcome to New Denver, Fleet Commander. I hope you're ready to learn something about human engineering." Lisa Carter gestured toward a large display screen that showed cutaway diagrams of the colony's defensive systems. "Everything you saw today was built using principles we learned from studying your technology during your diplomatic visits." Zarthun stared at the diagrams showing the sophisticated network of weapons, power systems, and communication arrays, hidden beneath what had appeared to be simple earthworks. "This is impossible. Your species cannot have developed this technology independently." "You're absolutely right," Jake agreed. "We didn't develop it independently. We learned it from you." Dr. Ben Watson stepped forward with a tablet containing detailed analysis of Zelrani technology. "Every time your people visited our colony, we were scanning your ships, analyzing your communication frequencies, and studying your defensive systems. You were teaching us how to defeat you. The railguns use magnetic acceleration principles we observed in your ship engines," Lisa explained. "The guided missiles use navigation algorithms we copied from your dropship computers. Even the EMP system was designed using electromagnetic theory we learned from studying your energy shields." Zarthun realized the magnitude of his species' mistake. "You used our own technology against us." "We improved your technology," Jake corrected. "Humans have always been good at taking existing ideas and making them better. You gave us advanced physics and we turned it into weapons specifically designed to exploit your weaknesses." Amy Rodriguez approached with a communication device. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from other worlds. Word about our victory is spreading through the galaxy faster than expected." Jake took the device and listened to reports from human colonies on dozens of other worlds. The news of New Denver's successful defense against a Zelrani invasion fleet was inspiring humans throughout known space. "It seems that our little demonstration has attracted attention," Jake told Zarthun. "Other species are learning that humans aren't as primitive as they assumed." The alien commander slumped in defeat as he realized the full implications of what had happened. His defeat wouldn't just end his career, it would force the entire galaxy to reassess humanity's place in the cosmic order. "What happens to me now?" Zarthun asked. "You're going to help us send a message," Jake replied. "We want every species in the galaxy to understand something very important about humans." Jake activated the colony's main communication array, broadcasting on frequencies that would reach every inhabited system within 100 light-years. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of New Denver Colony. Today, a Zelrani invasion fleet learned something that I want every species in the galaxy to understand. Humans may appear primitive, but we are the most dangerous opponents you will ever face." He paused to let that message sink in before continuing. "We don't have the most advanced technology, but we have something more valuable: the ability to learn, adapt, and improve. We can turn any weapon against its creators. We can make the impossible work with nothing but determination and ingenuity." Jake looked directly at Zarthun as he delivered his final warning to the galaxy. "The species that try to conquer humanity will discover that we don't just defend ourselves. We learn from every attack and become stronger. Today, the Zelrani learned this lesson. Tomorrow, it might be your turn." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate a new reality. Humanity had announced itself not as a primitive species to be conquered, but as engineers capable of turning any technology into a weapon. In the days that followed, reports reached New Denver of alien fleets changing course to avoid human-occupied systems. The galaxy was learning to respect a species that could make worthless shelters into devastating fortresses.